gets into the 95 of Folks. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona, and away we go for the first time. Nicholas Borcel, Sean.
And most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Ricky Empson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Now, as we've got three wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let him go very far.
Go out here for Circuit Spa Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
Just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
New stuff. Cody Graham's the one-on-one up into second place. Alex Johnson, 6/10 the lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, Justin Sang.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at Okayama International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons. Good evening, race fans, and welcome back as we have the incorrect overlay on our screens here. That's the one thing I forgot to check here this morning, but this evening, as we get the correct information up on our screens here, welcome back to the Alpha Touring Challenge, season number 8, as we are here today at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Folks, my name is Mason Heimball with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action here today, 1080p, 60 frames a second, as we gear up for another exciting race in 60 minutes of action-packed touring car racing here with the Alpha Touring Challenge. Drivers currently underway with qualifying, getting those tires warmed up, ready to go for their first laps here today, their first qualifying laps here today at Atlanta Motor Speedway. So this is going to be the first time that we're going to see what the driver's pace is going to look like, given open qualifying allows us to kind of get an idea of how these drivers are going to handle traffic a little bit towards the beginning of the race, not necessarily at the very beginning, but once drivers start to get a little bit of distance separated between them and they have a little bit of room around them to work with. Granted, at the start of the race, things will be a little bit different. Drivers will be stacked up door to door with one another, and I expect to see quite a lot of action here today at Charlotte Motor Speedway. The road course layout that we are racing on here today, obviously, we would not want to be doing 60 minutes, if I can speak correctly, 60 minutes of oval racing with these cars. I don't think that would exactly bode well for the drivers in the sense that they wouldn't exactly have all that much fun, given that these cars aren't exactly meant for that. But Kurt Smith that we're watching along with here in the number 3 machine as he makes his way around for the first time, and we will start to see drivers come across the line and start their first flying lap here of the qualifying session. So a few drivers that have already done so, and they are about to come across the line here for the first time to put an official time on the board and set the pace for the field and see who is going to rise to the top here tonight and set themselves on pole and at the front of the starting grid for today's race. Again, 60 minutes that we will see here tonight. A pretty straightforward race that we will see for the most part, but given that this is here at Charlotte, I've only done a couple broadcasts here at this specific track, so or at least this specific layout of this track. So I can't exactly say for certain how difficult certain areas might be compared to others. We obviously have the bus stop here on the back straightaway that we see Dane McFarlane making his way through at the moment. We also have the chicane coming out of turn 4 just before the checkered line. So a couple different little tricky spots that we have, but for the most part and for what we've seen in the past couple races here with these drivers and with this league, I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue for a lot of these drivers here today. Logan McKenzie, the very first driver to come across the line with a 125.91 as his best time here today, and that's going to set the pace here, or set the pace to beat for the moment. Slugnificent in that second place, just a 10th behind Mr. McKenzie here at the moment, and Raymond 2, the 996 machine, comes into second place here just by a few hundredths of a second ahead of Slugnificent. You're starting to see more drivers make their way onto the timing tower here as we enter into our 4th minute here out of our 15-minute qualifying that we have. So time is ticking away here for drivers, but they still got a little bit of time to work with to get those ideal qualifying times that they are looking for here today. Taking a look back, looking last week, we headed to Watkins Glen International, where we also saw a 60-minute race. And excuse me, we also saw, if I can pull up the correct information here, Edward Gorman coming away with the win last week at Watkins Glen. Micah Hendricks in that second place spot, and Logan McKenzie coming away in third. Eric Statzer, just to go through our point standings here at the moment, currently your points leader with 66 points overall. Connor Acatella in second place with 61 points. Andrew Parente I am looking at the wrong numbers. Robert Adams is actually your first place driver with 107 points. Edward Gorman in third with 99 points. David Bauer in third with 94 points. Just to round out the top three in our drivers' points, and taking a look at our team championship, Yellow Flag Motorsports, the leader with 88 points to their name. Second Breakfast in second place with 67 points. In Real Friends Racing with 51 points here at the moment. John Lazan with a 125.251 as the time to beat here tonight. So far, getting himself ahead of Logan McKenzie and Francois Schink in that third place position here as well, cracking their way into the 125 range. David Bauer also managing to work his way into the 125 region here as well. Starting to see more and more drivers work their way into that margin. Raymond 2, Mike De Almeida, Slugnificent, all just barely outside of that 125 region, so I don't imagine that it's going to take them too much here to break out of that and put themselves just a little bit further ahead on the starting grid. And Slugnificent, as he comes across the line, pushes his way up into fifth, but as I say that, Dan McFarlane, the number 23 driver, doing a phenomenal job to come away with a 124.916 as his best time, as we take a tune over to that number 23 machine. Looking mighty fine out there. Let's go ahead and actually ride on board here for just a moment with Dan McFarlane, just to give you folks at home a little bit of an idea of what the track looks like here at Charlotte Motor Speedway for the road course layout. For those of you that might not have seen it before and are interested in how things kind of work here when you are not just racing on the oval. And you might come as a bit of a surprise to some of you, but it was a surprise to myself when I found out that Charlotte actually had a road course inside of it. I did not know that initially when first getting into iRacing and all of the broadcasting side of things, and that was not something I was aware of beforehand, but now I know, and here we are almost 2 years later, and have learned a lot about racing in that time. But as we come out of turn number 4, Dan McFarlane going to come up to the chicane here before coming across the checkered line and see if he's going to come across with a better time than what he'd set prior. And at 125.14 as his best time. I was looking at Micah Hendricks, who actually just came across the line in that 473 machine, a 124.86. That will push his way into the front row. And provisional pole here for Micah Hendricks, 8 minutes into our qualifying. Just about 6 minutes left to go before we see that checkered flag, and we will officially have our starting lineup ready to go and dialed in for tonight as we gear up for an hour of action here today at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Round number 3 of the Alpha Touring Challenge here for season number 8, right here on the Team Goon Squad YouTube channel. I want to thank everyone who has tuned in here today and is watching with us live, and also thank to everyone who tunes in after the fact and watches the race after it's been live. For those of you that tune in afterwards and check out some of the action that we have It is always great to see the support and see everyone showing their love for their favorite drivers, their favorite teams, or their favorite league. Whatever the case might be, the support is always welcome and appreciated. As primarily, this is what our purpose is for, is to bring all of this action to you folks at home, so that way you can enjoy it yourself and not have to get behind the wheel and try and do what these guys do for yourself, because I can tell you, it is not exactly the easiest thing to do, as I don't think it would take too much to convince you of that, but you never know. As we tune into Jerome Bajules here in the number 99, currently 11th place here in qualifying with just about 5 minutes left to go here. Micah Hendricks still the man to beat. Dan McFarlane in that second place position. Logan McKenzie in third. Francois Schink in fourth. And Wojciech in that fifth place position. And as we're looking around the field and seeing which drivers have shown up for tonight from last week's race, out of the top three, Edward Gorman, not one of those drivers here tonight, unfortunately, but we do have Micah Hendricks, the second place driver with Curb Your Enthusiasm Autosport, here holding provisional pole at the moment for the number 473 machine, and looking to secure even more points for the Curb Your Enthusiasm team here tonight. Logan McKenzie, also another driver here today with Team Yellow Flag Motorsports. And last week, if you did not catch the action last week at Watkins Glen, it was fantastic racing. But also, for Logan McKenzie and Team Yellow Flag Motorsports, it was a phenomenal day for team points, as we had Logan McKenzie, Robert Abrams, as well as Connor Acatella, all three of them third, fourth, and fifth place respectively. Great way. Ideally, you'd like it to be a 1-2-3 finish, but I would say for 4 points overall, a 3, 4, and 5th place finish is absolutely stellar, given the caliber of racing that we've seen here with the Alpha Touring Challenge. We're watching here Raymond 2, the 996 driver with Real Friends Racing, currently holding on to the 7th place position, as we are just under 3 minutes left here in qualifying, and we officially see who is going to start where and get ourselves ready for the start, or the green flag to drop here for the first time tonight here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and see exactly what these drivers have in store for us tonight as we gear up for the hour-long event. And a lot of our field has taken it behind the wall and preparing themselves for today's race. I would say roughly a 50% split is out here on track right now. So with that being said, Micah Hendricks, Wojciech, both of these drivers looking to secure as much as they can here in pace, and Micah Hendricks having just a little over a 0.2 of a second gap between himself and Wojciech. It's going to be tough to say whether or not either one of these drivers is going to improve upon that here before qualifying is said and done, but the fight here for provisional pole is still on between these two drivers, Logan McKenzie, Francois Schink. They're 4th and 5th place here at the moment, and with Dan McFarlane, the 3rd place driver, down in pit road. I have a feeling that one of them could potentially push their way up into the top 3, but only time will tell, as we just have a minute and a half left here to go in qualifying. And as Micah Hendricks about to work his way through the chicane, And across the checkered line, will it be an improvement this time by... And it does not seem to be so, actually. A 145 for Micah here. Must have been some problems on the previous lap, but we're going to take a look here with Wojciech and see if he's got any improvements here in the number 1 Audi. As he makes his way out of turn 4 on the oval and into the chicane. Across the checkered line. Is it going to be enough for Wojciech? And it looks to be he actually matched his previous time, or came close to it. A 124.85, and Logan McKenzie, a 124.83, just barely inches his way into second place, and there it is. He brings it right down into pit road after securing what he assumes to be a second place start in the front row. Wojciech's going to drop down into third, the second row, as we have just a few seconds remaining here in qualifying. The checkered flag will fly, and okay, never mind. They're gonna have this opportunity to finish their laps here before they get yeeted back to pit road. We're gonna watch here and see if Wojciech is gonna have anything left this last time by. Oh, a big hop over the curb. That's going to slow him down a little bit, and it still doesn't stop him from taking provisional pole. A 124.5. Wow. A phenomenal way to end out qualifying here for Wojciech. We still have John Lazan as he's going to cross the line here for himself. A little bit of a scrape on the exit, but he's going to retain his 6th place position. Raymond 2 across the line here. Let's see if there's an improvement for the 996. Not this time around. So that will be the conclusion of qualifying here. As drivers make their way back down into pit road, they are going to get themselves freshened up and ready to go and lined up for the start of our 60-minute feature here today at Charlotte Motor Speedway, round number 3 of the Alpha Touring Challenge, season number 8. My name is Mason Heimbaugh, yet again here with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action. Folks, I hope you all are enjoying what we have seen here during qualifying as we await for iRacing to wrap things up and move ourselves on to the next stage of our race here today. Luckily, in the sim racing world, these things take a lot less time than they do in the real world. But as we see it happen, there it is, the switch over, and we're going to go ahead and run through our starting lineup here today. Wojciech, Swiatovic, Micah Hendricks up in the front row, Logan McKenzie, Francois Schink in the second row, Dan McFarlane, John Lazan taking up the third row, Raymond 2, Slugnificent in your fourth row, Kurt Smith, Mike De Almeida in your fifth row, Jerome Bajula as David Bauer taking up the sixth row as we move ourselves down the starting lineup. Andrew Parente, Kevin Clark in the seventh row, Scott Weib, Zach Perry in the eighth row, Nick Beta, Trevor Lambert in the ninth row, August Blondel, Kirk Lane in the 10th row, Harley Bathurst, Eric Statzer in the 11th row, Noel Fulgensi, Aaron Law in our 12th row, and as we move down to the final row, it's Dom Savio and Damon Mitchell taking up the last and final row here tonight as we hear what I believe were turbos there for a second, or at least I thought I heard a turbo. I hope I'm not hearing things. Anyway. Just awaiting for the red lights to dial themselves out here today. I knew that was going to happen. Why? Okay, green flag drops here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Wojciech with a phenomenal start here as he brings the rest of the field with him. Let's see if we can get back up to a little bit of a better angle here. There's trouble in the mid-pack. Mike De Almeida gets caught into it, as well as Jerome Bajules, and there's more trouble. A pileup of drivers trying to navigate their way through all of the calamity, all of the mess here, as we tune back into what seems to be a little bit more of a calmer field as they go single file from what seems to be about first all the way back to about 14th, where there seems to be a little bit more of a gap. A couple drivers duking it out side by side. Noel Fulgenzi, Mike De Almeida starts to dissipate here a little bit, and whoa. I'm not sure who that was. I believe that's not Eric Statzer. I am not sure who that is, actually. Noel Fulgenzi, is that correct? It is Noel. Okay, Noel having some trouble here in the number 97. Not exactly certain what issues he's having there, but slowing down rather significantly. As we're tuned in to Slugnificent, Raymond 2, John Lazan, all in a little bit of a trail here. Oh, Raymond looking to the inside of Slug. He gets the move as they head off into turn 1. Slugnificent now going to be under pressure here from John Lazan, the 14 Honda, trying to do everything in his power to stay on the rear wing. John Lazan also taking advantage of this battle here. Excuse me, I was saying, I meant Raymond having to get away from Slug, and John giving the pressure here to Slugnificent at the moment as we ride on board with the number 77 driver. Get a better picture of this battle as it develops. Some great onboard shots there as we tune back up to the front, where Wojciech, Micah Hendricks both duking it out here for the lead. Under a quarter of a second gap between these two as they head into the chicane. Micah Hendricks, that rear end just sliding, coming out of the exit of the chicane, and Wojciech able to take advantage of that build. Just a little over a half a second gap now between himself and the number 473. Gonna try and continue to build upon that gap here, as we are currently on lap number 3, and we get a great shot here of teammates. John Lazan, Kurt Smith, David Bauer, all trying to put in some work here. 8th, 9th, and 10th place respectively here at the moment, as they try and track down Slugnificent in that number 14 Honda. The Yellow Flag Motorsports machine going to feel a little bit of pressure here momentarily, as the breakfast for dinner drivers start to work their way to the tail of Slugnificent. And we have a crash report from August Blondel. Let's take a quick look at the instant replay here for August and see how this one shapes out. Oh boy. Yeah, just a little bit of a self-spin on that one. Probably overheated the tires. And overall, just a rough way to have to bring it down into pit road. But I gotta say, I love the paint scheme on that number 17. That is definitely a sweet one. Tuning into some other battles here out on track. Andrew Parente under fire from Zach Perry. As they head off into turn 1, you can see just how easy it is to get these cars, the rear end, to start to slide. These drivers are pushing these cars to their limits. But so far, so smooth. Everyone, again, staying in relatively single-file fashion here at the moment, and you're ultimately going to be in that situation for a majority of the race. It's all going to come down to the bus stop, the chicane, where you can really kind of bring that pace back. But there's also the straightaways here where you can really build up a lot of momentum, a lot of speed, as we're seeing here for the lead. Micah Hendricks to the inside through the bus stop. Wojciech's going to fall back into second place. Logan McKenzie also going to be right on the tail of the number 1 Audi as they head through the turns 3 and 4 on the oval. They're going to come back into the chicane. And let's see exactly how one might try and take advantage. Yeah, see, you got to be careful through that chicane. You really can't take... it's not really a place for passing, but like I mentioned, it is a place to try and decrease the gap between yourself and your opponents. Shortening the braking zones ever so slightly can definitely help, but you have to do it just right. Too much and things can go sour very, very quickly. Taking a ride on board here with Dan McFarlane, the number 23 driver, currently sitting in 5th place. Get an onboard view from the helmet camera as they come through the bus stop here on the back straight. And Dan McFarlane not leaving a whole lot of room between himself and the bumper of Francois Schink, just ahead of him, trying to build up that draft and potentially get a little bit of a slingshot to the outside. Looks to the inside, heading through the chicane, makes it happen. Not leaving a whole lot of room to the inside, but I think given that we couldn't really see outside of his car while we were riding with him, I would assume that Francois probably backed off there and let Dan through the chicane there without too much hassle. But that was definitely a solid move here from Dan, albeit maybe a little yeah, you know, I won't even get into it anyway. For the most part, on our field, we have battles that are relatively loosely formed here at the moment. Nothing really cracking into the sub-quarter of a second range here. We have a few drivers that are kind of inching their way to that point, but it is definitely taking a lot of effort from these drivers to make these passing attempts happen, as we're seeing it now from Kurt Smith around Andrew Parente, heading into the bus stop. Andrew Parente doing a phenomenal job of staying ahead of Kurt Smith here, but Kurt also doing a great job as he's starting to see pressure from Zach Perry, the 56 driver, to his outside as they come through 3 and 4. Opting to not try the same move that we saw earlier, but keeping the racing clean, keeping the racing consistent, as we are just about 10 minutes into the hour-long event that we have here tonight. Currently, we have the battle between Trevor Lambert, Mike De Almeida on screen, as we're starting to see a little bit of separation here from on the field, You can see that on the bottom right-hand side of your screen on the track map, and you can get a good idea of just what I mean by the separation. And we're starting to see a few outlying drivers that are in their lonesome, a couple different packs that have formed, but ultimately the field is starting to see themselves spread out, and that's ultimately going to really start to challenge drivers coming into their pit stops here, and kind of boding the question of how aggressively some of these drivers might be pushing tires. How much fuel are they trying to save here to try and prolong their stints here, if at all? And what kind of effect that's going to have once they come down into pit road. Everyone's going to be on a different sort of mindset as far as when to come down into pits. However, I do think that when you are in these tight little groups like this and you all are running consistent times, not everyone's going to come in at the same exact time, so you really are going to have to keep your eyes open. You're going to have to be mindful of just where everyone's coming in and when you're deciding to come into the pits. It's going to be a real game of chess here as we get into the real nitty-gritty of things, but we're not even halfway, not even a quarter of the way into today's race. So again, still a lot of time left, and ultimately at this point, driver's goal is going to be just keeping your head down and staying consistent, not really focusing too much on pit strategy right now. It's all about just staying consistent and not trying to let these drivers get into your head too much. As Wojciech is right on the bumper there of Micah Hendricks for a moment, backing off as they head to the infield. But Micah Hendricks doing a great job here under pressure for Team Curb Your Enthusiasm. But Micah Hendricks isn't going to be alone here in this endeavor for Team Curb Your Enthusiasm, as he has teammate Francois Schenk up here in 5th place as well. And if Francois can keep up the draft here and reel these guys in even more, he's already seemed to have done so. Ultimately going to be a matter of just keeping up with the pace and maybe even trying to make a passing attempt here. Again, Micah Hendricks not going to be necessarily alone in this pack that we have up here at the front of the field. Back in 17th, though, we have Trevor Lambert and Mike De Almeida side by side as they go back down the back straight through the bus stop section. Mike De Almeida going to be the driver ahead in this little battle here between Trevor Lambert and himself. But once Mike De Almeida, he was able to get himself away from Trevor, as well as Dom Savio, who's also trailing along with these drivers. He's got a little bit of room to work with. Whether or not he's going to be able to keep building upon that will remain to be seen here. But from Mike De Almeida to the next driver, Aaron Law, the number 38 Audi driver, there is a roughly 7-second gap between these drivers. So there is quite a bit of time that has to be made up for in order for Mike and friends, essentially, to catch back up to the 15th place driver. But not saying that it's impossible, and it's still early on in the race. And again, as I was mentioning, pit stops can definitely have a huge role in where drivers end up tonight. But I think a lot of these guys have already got things pretty dialed in for tonight, and when they're going to come in, or at least when they expect to come in. It's all just going to come down to how aggressively you're pushing and how much fuel you're burning through to stay fast out here. I think is going to be ultimately maybe a slight adjustment of plans here for some drivers, but minor at best. All right. Well, I was going to try and show team names here while I was going to talk about some team points here, but we'll go ahead, we'll go ahead and do that a little bit differently here. So as I was saying a little bit earlier in the broadcast during qualifying, as we have a great battle between Aaron Law and Nick Beta, the 38 Audi and the 133 Hyundai, both having a little bit of a duke out here for the 14th place position, but it seems like Nick Beta backing off just a little bit there, as we also have a battle between Slugnificent and John Lazan. Whoa! John Lazan getting a little bit of a push there, it looked like, from Slugnificent. Obviously not intentional, but a slight tap there, and oh boy, having to give up some time there, it looks like, for cutting the course. I would have to imagine that's at least what it looks like to me. But as I was mentioning, Yellow Flag Motorsports currently the leader in the team championship with 88 points. And just 11 points behind that, or excuse me, 21 points behind that is Team Second Breakfast. Real Friends Racing in third place here at the moment. So again, Yellow Flag Motorsports, after last week's race, securing quite a few points, coming away with both third, fourth, and fifth place finishes, and potentially looking to come away with even more points similar to that here today. Maybe not exactly the same, but top 10s are always a nice way to cap off a race here for the entirety of your team. Now, when you're looking at teams like Curb Your Enthusiasm with Micah Hendricks in first place, Francois Schink in that fifth place spot. I'm not sure if they have another teammate here present at the moment, but needless to say, with both of these drivers in the top 5, that is also going to have quite a positive impact on their point standings here in the team championship. I apologize for the silence there, as I was trying to find the list of teams with the drivers attached to them, so I wasn't trying to fumble around. And it took me a little bit longer than I would have liked, but we finally have it, thankfully. And now that we do, we have also the battle on screen between Logan McKenzie, Dan McFarlane, that has been happening here for a little while now. Really the top 5, top 6 almost, you could consider really kind of having a field day up here in the front of the field and kind of putting on some great battles as this race progresses on. Just about a third of the way through the entirety of our 60-minute feature race here today. And as I was mentioning, gonna try and take a look at what teams are who and who is on what team. And for... oh boy, here we go again. For Team Yellow Flag Motorsports, we have Robert Abrams, Connor Acatella, Logan McKenzie, and Eric Statzer, all on Team Yellow Flag Motorsports. So Logan McKenzie sitting in that third place position, looking absolutely fantastic in the top 3 here at the moment, and it does not appear that he has another teammate in the top 5 here with him. I'm not seeing actually another teammate for him. Actually, he's got Eric Statzer with him. The 789 Honda driver is currently sitting in 20th here tonight. So he's not exactly alone, but definitely looking to secure as many points as he can here for himself and for his team. And with the top 3, that is going to definitely be a feasible option here tonight. Now, looking back at second place team, second breakfast. For team second breakfast, we have Jacob Wally, Kurt Smith, and John Lazan. Both John Lazan and Kurt Smith are here tonight. John in the 9th place position, and Kurt Smith in 11th here at the moment. So some more good points going to be hopefully scored for these drivers. And for John Lazan, I would have to imagine going to be looking to try and work his way even further in the top 10 and potentially try and crack his way into the top 5 if that becomes feasible. We also have David Bauer here, who's on the, I would assume, is the primary breakfast team. Anyway, breakfast for dinner, David Bauer, James Carr, and Justin Rhodes consist of team breakfast for dinner. And David Bauer sitting in that 8th place spot on the chase of Slugnificent here at the moment as they head back into the infield. David Bauer trying to get that nose to the inside of Slug here. Almost right on the bumper of the Yellow Flag Motorsports 14 driver. As they come back out into turns 1 and 2 and onto the back straightaway of the oval. And David Bauer going to try and give the push here going through the bus stop. It's very close to the tail of Slugnificent. Now let's see if he can build up this draft going through 3 and 4 just before the chicane and see if he's going to pull a move to the inside. Let's see if he's going to try and make it happen. Looks to the inside, not going to be able to make it work this time around. Aborts mission for this time, but he's going to continue to apply the pressure to Slugnificent as we enter. As we are, again, 1/3 of the way into tonight's race, and we see Dan McFarlane flashing the lights there at Logan McKenzie. Not sure if that's a, hey, get out of the way flash, or if that's a, hey, that was too close, don't do that again flash, or something of that nature. It usually means one of those things. You could probably guess. But Dan McFarlane, right on the tail of Logan McKenzie, keeps trying to find the inside or find a way around the 04 Hyundai. As they come out of turn 2 of the oval onto the back straightaway to the inside, going through the bus stop, Dan McFarlane, the 23, takes the advantage and up into the top 3 for the 23 driver and for Team SRG. SRG Team Sim Racing Grid consisting of Dan McFarlane, currently on track, as well as teammate Mark DeBauer, who I don't think is here tonight. I don't remember saying that name earlier, so I would have to say no. I don't think he is here tonight, unfortunately. But Dan McFarlane definitely putting up the numbers, making it happen here for himself and Team SRG. As Logan McKenzie, Francois Schenk, they're going to duke it out nearly door-to-door there. Going back into the infield here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Francois trying to get to the tail of the 04 driver. But as we tune back here just a little bit to the 8th place, Slugnificent David Bauer duking it out for that 7th place spot. Riding on the nose camera here of David's 35 machine as they come back out onto the front straight into turns 1 and 2 on the oval. we see that draft starting to come into play here as he gets up right to the tail, to the inside, about to head into the bus stop. Slugnificent very confident here, though, does not give him any room to work with. But David Bauer's got enough pace, enough momentum to nearly get to the rear quarter panel of that 14 machine as they come out of turn 4 through the chicane. Absolutely impressive racing between these two drivers here at the moment. Incredible battles happening throughout this track as we are just a few minutes away before I would have to imagine, or assume at least, that we will see the very first pit stops come underway, which I actually might have missed some because of my timing and scoring software not showing me all of the drivers. We've had a few drivers make their way into the pits here already. Looks to be John Lazan, Kurt Smith, Kirk Lane, and Auguste Blondel, but Auguste Blondel has exited the race here tonight. He's taken that car back to the trailer, and I think he's going to call it a night here. But few other drivers opting to come down into the pits a little bit earlier, than the rest of the field. And if Watkins Glen is anything to go off of, it's really not going to matter too much when these drivers come down into pit road and get tires and fuel. They can finish the race to the end here, if I'm not mistaken. So again, pit strategy is going to be rather curious to witness here as we wind things down to the halfway mark here in tonight's race and gear up for what will eventually be driver's second stint. Now, as the sun also starts to set here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, lights are starting to turn on the track, and that's going to allow track temperatures to come down. Grip is, I would assume, going to come up here, and I would also have to imagine that drivers are going to in turn start to really crank up the heat and start to get faster. And as I say faster, taking a look at Micah Hendricks excuse me, Micah Hendricks here at the moment, his fastest lap here tonight has been a 124.36. Now, if you'll remember, folks, the fastest lap in qualifying set by Wojciech was a 124.5. So, granted, that's not a huge difference, but it is at least to me, an indicator that we are seeing grip start to come up with these cars. They're able to really put the power down just a little bit more, and it's showing through actually a fair chunk of the field here. We can actually take a look on the left-hand side of your screens now. You can see the best lap times that drivers have set here tonight, and you can see Micah Hendricks a 124.3, Wojciech Swiatowicz with a 124.6, Dan McFarlane with a 124.9. So a lot of 124s that we're seeing here as opposed to what we saw in qualifying. Still quite a few in qualifying, but I would say probably a little bit more here in the race. And that's, not exactly a very surprising thing to see. That's actually typical, but it does validate my assumption that things are starting to turn in the driver's favor as opposed to the track's favor, if you will. as we crack into the halfway mark, or at least have cracked into the halfway mark here tonight. We're starting to see drivers, or at least a driver, in the front of the field, I guess you could call it the top 15, make their way down into pit road for the first time here tonight. As Dan is going to make his way down into the pits, that is going to kind of open up the door, or open up the question here for the rest of the field. In the remaining 15, the top 15, I should say, as far as when they're going to decide to come in and how things are going to kind of shape up here position-wise for some of these drivers. With Dan McFarlane coming in, he's going to drop down into 8th place as he comes out of pit road. Zach Perry, Aaron Law, they're going to make their way down into pit road here as well. So starting to see that shakeup happen here. What sort of battles we're going to see develop. What positions are going to be lost. What positions will be gained. All going to be discovered here in just a few short minutes. Because again, we have surpassed the halfway mark, and I would have to imagine that a lot of these drivers aren't going to want to stay on the same set of tires they're currently on. And they're going to want to get those changed here before too long and fill up on fuel and get ready for the final stints here tonight. Francois Schink, he's going to take that cue to come down into pit road. But Micah Hendricks, Wojciech Swididowicz, they both stay out on track, and also, as they crossed the line last time around, they set the fastest laps for themselves, and as well for the session by Micah Hendricks, a 124.26. That is the fastest lap here tonight. So cars are definitely getting a little bit lighter here with fuel starting to, with the fuel tank starting to be less and less filled with gasoline here, or not necessarily gasoline, but with the race juice, as we'll call it. I'm sorry. Oh, at least I make myself chuckle. Anyway, only roughly a handful of drivers left to come down into pit road, and with that, Francois Schink, Dan McFarlane, currently sitting at 7th and 8th place here at the moment, and I'm surprised to see actually... No, there was someone else. I lost track of who it was. I think it wasn't John Lazan. Perhaps it was... Well, either way, as these drivers shuffle around the track here, we're seeing a lot of the battles start to split up here, and that's not exactly unexpected. However, that is going to really kind of have an interesting impact on the race here, as drivers are mostly going to be worried about just staying consistent here. They're just going to be clicking off laps and trying to avoid lap traffic, just making sure that no one is ruining one another's day and making one another's life harder than it already probably is here at the moment. As we're seeing Aaron Law, Kurt Smith, they're duking it out here for the 14th place position. As this will shape up to be roughly the only battle that we have out on track at the moment, as they come through the chicane and across the checkered line. David Bauer, Andrew Parente, they both make their way down into pit lane here now as well. Starting to see the top 5 shake up here just a little bit as fuel is starting to become a small issue for some of these drivers, and I'm sure for Micah Hendricks and Wojciech, it's gonna be coming down to fumes, I would have to imagine, once they come down into pit road. But again, a lot of these guys, they are very, very experienced with these cars, and I'm sure they have got these. They've got these fuel runs down to probably the exact second of when they're going to run out. I mean, it's with practice. With lots of practice, it definitely is incredible just how well you can understand a car and how it will consume fuel over time, how it will affect tires over time. It's, again, just a lot of practice, a lot of time behind the wheel that has been spent from these drivers to perfect their craft and to make the racing as good as it is on our screens right now. And folks, I cannot express to you enough just how difficult it actually is to have a race like this that is this competitive, but also this fair and this clean in most senses, and actually well, really in the entirety of the word, in the entirety of the sense of the word. We haven't had a major incident since lap 15. We are on now lap 27. So that's just to kind of give you folks a rough idea of what it's like, what the caliber of driver that we have here tonight. And it's just incredible to see the talent that makes an appearance here week in and week out. Granted, not every driver shows up to every race, but it is great to see the different talents and different teams that show up and make an effort for every event that they can. Micah Hendricks, your race leader, makes his way down into pit road. That's going to pass the lead on to Wojciech, and Logan McKenzie also going to follow Micah on down into pit road here as well. So Wojciech now going to be the man out ahead and is going to be the next driver that I would have to imagine is going to be coming down into pit road here very shortly to grab tires and grab fuel and the like. Kurt Smith, Aaron Law, they continue the battle, and wow! Kurt Smith trying to fend off Aaron Law, the 38 Audi. Trying to do everything in his power here, and I think my favorite thing about Aaron Law's setup here is the fact that he's got no sponsorships on the car, nothing, no decals, no anything. It just looks like an Audi someone just built in their garage and put on track. I love it. It's as simple as you can possibly get, but I'm here for it. Wojciech Swiatowic coming down into pit road, the number 1 driver. Also your race leader, going to be taking that final set of tires as well as a final top off of fuel before finishing out his final stint here tonight at Charlotte Motor Speedway. A few battles starting to develop around the track. Logan McKenzie, Francois Schink, just to name one. The battle for third place developing as we also have Scott Wee, Mike De Almeida battling for the 13th place position. The 253 Hyundai under fire by the number 26 Honda. Micah Hendricks makes his way, Wojciech makes his way back out onto track just behind Micah Hendricks. Our race leader, Micah Hendricks, gets a little sideways going into the infield here, but with just a little over a second gap between himself and Wojciech, and showing, according to timing and scoring, he's got the pace to get a little bit more distance between him. But we know the experience, we know the skill of the number 1 driver. I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue here for Wojciech to track down Micah, and it's going to be an interesting battle nonetheless between these two once things all get settled in here. And Micah has been putting on an absolute great performance here tonight. With all the drivers now on their final set of tires and final tank of fuel, and just under 20 minutes left to go here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. The clock is winding down, and I'm more than certain that drivers are definitely feeling the pressure to start to really up the pace here for themselves as much as they can without overdoing it. Now, that's always a hard and fine line to cross. Micah Hendricks across the line, setting the fastest lap of the race session, a 1:23.8. Here for the number 473 driver, Francois Schink, under fire from Dan McFarlane, in 4th place here at the moment. As again, the clock is winding down. Things are getting to the point where any mistake is going to cost you dearly, and any chance of recovery is going to be slim to none. John Lazan, Andrew Parente with the battle here in 9th place at the moment. John Lazan with second breakfast, trying to make the move here on Andrew Parente as they come into the bus stop on the back straightaway. Parente still up ahead in the 9th place position. John still trying to stay on the tail of that number 15 Hyundai as close as he can. John Lazan doing absolutely phenomenal goal as they go into the infield. Lazan looks to the inside of Parente. Parente going to still be possibly with an advantage, not necessarily. John Lazan's going to have the better exit speed on that one, and he's going to manage to get himself a little bit of a comfortable gap to work with now. It's all going to be a matter of if he can hit his marks consistently and try and throw Andrew Parente off his game here as much as he can. A little bit of a scrape that we just heard to the side of John Lazan's machine. Not going to slow him down too much here as we're looking with Scott Weib. Mike Almeida just ahead of him in 14th. The number 26 Honda trying all his efforts here as well to keep that 14th place position. Slugnificent under fire here from David Bauer. The breakfast for dinner driver looking to get into that 7th place position if he possibly can. We're into the final 15 minutes of today's race. David Bauer absolutely putting the pressure on here. We're going to ride on board with David and probably with the driver for the last time tonight here. Just a one more kind of a lap on board here with David. And under the lights here as well here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Excellent action out here on track. And speaking of action, Wojciech is looking for some of it as he has managed to work that gap between himself and Micah Hendricks to under a second now and closing the pace difference in favor of Wojciech between the two. And let's see if Wojciech is going to have the time and the pace to be able to get ahead of Micah here. 11 minutes left to go, and looking at lap times, there's only going to be a few laps for these drivers to turn before the checkered flag is out, and we finish round number 3 of the Alpha Touring Challenge season number 8 here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Will Micah Hendricks and Team Curb Your Enthusiasm come away with a victory here tonight? After a 3rd place overall best finish last week, or excuse me, no, that wasn't, that was Team Yellow Flag Motorsports. Micah Hendricks actually came away with a 2nd place finish last week at Watkins Glen. So a win here tonight would be incredible for himself and his team. David Bauer, Slugnificent, meanwhile, duking it out side by side. The Yellow Flag Motorsports driver as well as the Breakfast for Dinner driver having a little bit of a battle as they head to the infield here at Charlotte. Slugnificent trying to do everything in his power to retain that 7th place position. Micah Hendricks, meanwhile, starting to feel the fire lit underneath him from Wojciech, as that number 1 Audi just slowly creeps to the rear view of the 473 Hyundai of Micah Hendricks as they come out of the chicane across the checkered line, heading into turn number 1. In less than 10 minutes left to go before the checkered flag is officially out here at Charlotte. Micah has a lot of work ahead of him. Meanwhile, Slugnificent, David Bauer, they continue their fight down the back straightaway, heading into the bus stop, door to door, through it, make contact to one another. It's going to be Slugnificent taking advantage of it. Back up into the 7th place position. He keeps that spot for the time being. David Bauer going to look to try and reel him in once more and continue this fight here for 7th place. Micah Hendricks able to build a little bit more distance between himself and Wojciech. Under a half a second between these two drivers now. Any mistakes here is going to be critical for both of these drivers, regardless if it's Micah or Wojciech. For Micah, it's a risk of losing position. For Wojciech, it's a risk of losing a potential of gaining a position. David Bauer doing everything, using every turn to try and reel in Slugnificent once more for this battle for 7th place. And I think out of all the drivers out on track right now, Slug has got to be the one that is got to be feeling the most pressure as they come through the chicane. They make contact. David Bauer and Slugnificent both into the wall. And that's going to put Andrew Parente up into 8th place here. Wow. A very unfortunate way. And it looks like there is trouble here for Slugnificent. Sparks, oh boy. I think he flatted that tire, that front left. That thing is riding on the rim. Wow. A tough, tough break for Slugnificent and David Bauer. It's Micah Hendricks starting to see Wojciech close back in on him here yet again. We're going to take a moment here just to take a quick look here once more at this fight between David Bauer, Slugnificent, as they come out of 4 through the chicane. And here it is, Slugnificent, I think, man, it's a tough one to call here, but it looks like Slug might have started to slide here just a little bit going into it. And it definitely looks like he may have started to slide a little bit, maybe didn't realize that there wasn't enough room between himself and David there. But ultimately, for both drivers, ending in catastrophe in the worst possible way here with just a few minutes left in the race. It's a tough break for both drivers. Meanwhile, Micah Hendricks, Wojciech Swiatowic, they continue the fight for the lead. Micah Hendricks looking to come away with a win here tonight. Wojciech, after a break from last week, back here yet again and looking to come away with another win after a very, very dominating win at Long Beach. Or a dominating performance at Long Beach, I should say. Trevor Lambert, Mike De Almeida, they are duking it out here for 12th place. Trevor Lambert gets into the wall there in that number 93 Spotify machine. Leaving some paint behind. A little bit of a memory here for them here at Charlotte. And something for the track crew to worry about later on. As we're still locked in with the battle for the lead. Micah Hendricks, your race leader, under 5 minutes left to go before the checkered flag is flown. And oh man, both Micah and Wojciech seem to, they both were close to the grass there. It almost seemed they were only centimeters away from both sending their cars into the wall there, but keeping it clean, keeping it green. even though there is no flags here with the Alpha Touring Challenge. However, that would have been a devastating way to end both of these drivers' races here tonight. With now under 4 minutes left to go, Dan McFarlane putting pressure on Logan McKenzie here for the top 3. Only inches separating these two bumpers here at the moment. Dan McFarlane going to be right at the rear quarter panel as they go now door to door, trying to fight their way out of the midfield. And Logan McKenzie doing a phenomenal job in the 04 Yellow Flag Motorsports machine. Might have been a little bit of contact there between them. It seemed like based on that camera angle, but it might have been a little bit more room than what we perceived there. McFarlane definitely putting the pressure here in the final few minutes of the race here tonight. Logan McKenzie doing everything he can to stay out ahead of Dan, and we are looking out the rear view of the 04 machine here at the moment, just seeing exactly how close Dan is getting here in some of these turns. Both of them leaving a little bit of paint on the exit back onto turns 1 and 2. But here it is, less than 2 minutes left to go here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. What will be, I assume, as both Micah Hendricks and Wojciech Swiatowicz come across the line for, I would have to imagine, potentially the last time, or maybe the second to last time, as it might be a close one once they come across the line here. But Wojciech turning the pressure up here. He is on fire, trying to reel in the 473 of Micah Hendricks. It is the last chance to dance here tonight at Charlotte Motor Speedway for round number 3 of the Alpha Touring Challenge. Micah Hendricks is in the hot seat as he continues to fend off the number 1 Audi. And I think that I heard a little bit of contact there. I'm not sure if that was a scrape or what that was, or maybe it was just something else. But either way, that definitely did not sound friendly. Wojciech, though, as they come down the back straight through the bus stop, and I think they will have one more lap to finish things out here, because I think they're going to come across the line. Let's see. I don't know. 10 seconds. Yeah, they're definitely going to have one more lap. All right. Here it is, folks. White flag is out. It is the final lap here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Currently on your screen, the battle for the lead, as Micah Hendricks has been fighting for this lead the entirety of this race, having a little bit of a breather after pit stops, but now Wojciech right back on the tail of the race leader and trying everything in his power to get him unsettled here, trying to see if he can get an opening for himself as they come out of the midfield and back out onto turns 1 and 2. This is where the draft is going to play in favor for Wojciech as he pulls right onto the bumper of the 473 of Micah Hendricks. Heading to the bus stop, it's all going to come down to who's going to be on the brakes first. Wojciech with the draft. Micah Hendricks going to be to the inside. He's going to keep the front here for the time being. doing a phenomenal job of keeping Wojciech in check here. Wojciech backing off to just over a quarter of a second as they come out of turn 4 into, oh boy, into the grass there for Wojciech, and a big hop on the curb, but it won't be enough as Micah Hendricks takes the checkered flag for the race win here tonight. Wojciech coming across the line in second. Logan McKenzie as he comes out of turn 4 through the chicane with Dan McFarlane in tow. Dan McFarlane looks to the inside as they come through the chicane, and Dan McFarlane has to cut through. Wow. Folks, okay, you can't even get, okay, that's just, wow. Huge, okay, we won't get into that right away. The sportsmanship between these drivers is just impeccable. I mean, it is absolutely incredible. It very well could have been Dan McFarlane came across the line, taking home third. Logan McKenzie, he's slowed up too. I think both of these drivers were just kind of like, hey, that was my bad. And I think they were both just kind of caught off guard by it. But that's the nature of racing, and it's just honestly a great thing to see drivers that are willing to take responsibility for situations like that. And, you know, whether it was their fault or not, seeing both of them say, hey, you know what, I don't feel right taking this position, coming across the line like that, and they both slowed up, and they that's poetic. That's just honestly, that's poetic. But there it is, folks. You can see it on the left-hand side of your screen, the unofficial results, and we can actually take a look at our post-race results as they are now on our screen. Micah Hendricks comes down into pit road, and wow, folks, what a race that we had here tonight. It was a lot of action-packed events here. A lot of great racing, and frankly, with having only a one-stop race, with only having, well, realistically, kind of one real opportunity at the beginning to get into an opportune position and really fight for positions from there, it was a lot of great racing, a lot of great things to be seen throughout tonight's race. But as we see drivers celebrating in their own fashion, we're going to go ahead and get ready for post-race interviews, starting off with Mr. Logan McKenzie. Logan joining us up here in the booth, taking away third place tonight. Welcome to the booth. Congratulations on your podium finish here tonight. Definitely I would say this was one of the races where staying smooth, staying consistent throughout the night was primarily the key. But what was kind of your outlook for tonight's race? What was kind of your biggest things that you were looking out for once things went green here tonight at Charlotte?
I think one of the biggest challenges that I personally had tonight, and I know a couple other people did as well, is the curbs, specifically coming out of the final chicane. They can damage your car if you take too much of them. I think in the Elantra during practice, so a lot of people, I think, pitted early tonight. Because of that, they were grabbing that fast repair to fix the damage, so it was difficult out there.
Yeah, it definitely looked like it, and I don't think I would do much better than a lot of you guys did. I don't even think I would have lasted a full hour here tonight with how competitive the field was. But Logan, I mean, speaking of competitive, I mean, you and Dan McFarlane there towards the end, you both were fighting tooth and nail for that third place spot. I mean, Dan definitely wanted to be on that podium as much as you did, but you wanted it more, and you came away with that third place finish. I mean, kind of talk to me a little bit about that fight with both yourself and the 23 driver. I mean, you guys had, I can't recall how many laps exactly, but it seemed like for quite a while you two were duking it out there before the checkered flag finally flew.
Yeah, the problem was he was about 3 or 4 tenths of a second faster than me through that bus stop, so I had to make it up everywhere else. And as we got closer to the end of the race, he started to get more consistent, I lost the ability to make up the ground in like sectors 1 and 2. And so at that point, it was all about making sure that I get a good exit onto the oval, no matter what. It's very difficult to get any kind of pass in those couple of corners before the entry back onto the oval. So I was really focusing on making sure that I got a good run onto it, and whatever I did, it kind of messed him up. There were a couple times where I was kind of coasting through there a little slowly, threw off his rhythm. I was just looking for anything I could to get an advantage onto the straight, because I knew if we went into the bus stop side by side, it was done.
Well, you both did absolutely incredible. I mean, it was great. Just you both were pushing every single breaking point. You guys were trying everything you could through the chicane to get the edge on one another, and it was just a fantastic battle to witness here tonight. But now that we have Charlotte out of the way here, we head up north. We head up to our Canadian friends, and we head to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park for round number 4. What's kind of your outlook there? We're going back to our first layout that we had here for round number 1, a 20-minute sprint followed by a 30-minute feature. You already know the deal. You run the show here, but just speaking for the folks at home, what's kind of your outlook heading to Canada next week?
It's always an interesting one because it's an older scan, so there's grass everywhere. Nowadays they've paved off a lot of the runoff at most sport, but here there's some crazy off-camber corners that try to just kill you, put 1 foot in the grass at most sport, and you're gone. But I love the track. It's the first 2 sectors are really technical challenge, and then the third sector, great high speed flowing. It's short. It's produced some great sprint challenges in the past. I personally like it, and I think I'm pretty quick there. So it produces great battles. I'm excited. I'm always excited to go to most sport. We got a lot of Canadians in this league, so it's a lot of hype.
Well, Logan, I'm certainly excited to head up north myself, being that I'm only just a stone's throw away from Canada. I mean, I say that anyway, Logan, before you head out here and before you get to celebrating with your fellow drivers, fellow teammates, is anyone watching the broadcast or at home or in the pit crew that you want to give a shout out to and thank before you go tonight?
Well, first shout out to Dan, because he did not. There was a little bit of confusion there on the last corner. He thought he had pushed me off. I was just running out of fuel, so he kind of let me have P3 out of what he thought was sportsmanship, and I think that's what this league is all about, and it's great to see that demonstrated, and he fully deserved that podium. It was a great race with him, so huge shout out to him, and shout out to my girlfriend Jasmine, who watches all of these broadcasts, and I can't go at least one season without shouting her out on one of these. So.
Well, Logan, it's a great pleasure to have you up here in the booth and getting to chat with you. I hope to get to talk to you again more throughout the season, and also good luck to you next week, and hopefully get to see more success for yourself and for Team Yellow Flag Motorsports there.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for the podcast.
Absolutely. Have a good one. Alrighty, folks, that was Logan McKenzie coming out of the booth with your third place win here tonight, or third place finish here tonight. Second place was Wojciech Swidadowicz, but it does not appear that we have him available for a post-race interview. So we're going to move on to first place finisher, our man of the hour, Mr. Micah Hendricks, coming away with a win. And Micah, I got to tell you, man, this has been a fantastic race to watch yourself participate in. We saw you last week come away with a second place finish, and you know what? It seemed like you came away from that race and said, that's not good enough. We got to come away with a win, and here you are coming away first place ahead of Wojciech, who really was putting the pressure on you there in the final moments of tonight's race. Micah, kind of talk to me about what the lead up was for you tonight, what kind of worries that you had coming into tonight's race, and ultimately what led what you think led to your success here tonight at Charlotte.
Well, first of all, I'm actually borrowing a friend's rig because I'm out of town, so I'm on a totally different rig than what I'm used to. So shout out to him for letting me borrow it, and so I think that's part of it. Is it's a lot nicer than what I have back home.
Well, Micah, it seems like even with a different setup and a whole different kind of well, surroundings, I guess you could say, you still managed to come away with a W and come away strong. Kind of fighting with Wojciech there towards the end. Did you have any moments that you were a little worried that he might get the run on you, or were you pretty confident there towards the end that you were gonna stay consistent and come across the line victorious?
I would say about, man, 2 laps after we pit, that when he closed the gap from like 1.8 down to 1.6, and I had a good lap how I felt, and he dropped like a 7 or an 8, and I was like, okay, I did some quick math in my brain. I was like, all right, he's going to catch me, and at this point I don't need to go for pace, I need to go for minimizing mistakes. And so that seemed to work well. There's a couple 2 or 3/10 mistakes I made under some braking zones and a little bit of over rotation, but overall pretty good. It was actually not planned to switch to the Veloster. I accidentally selected it. So thankfully I had a setup somewhere that I could access to throw on really quick. So that was a little bit of a harrowing new rig car that I haven't tested on. So that was a little bit harrowing going into this race.
Well, I think that just goes to show the level of skill behind the wheel of the 473 machine. Coming into the race with a completely different setup, a car that you, I would assume, haven't really driven all that much, and a setup that you probably haven't had too much practice with either, and coming away still strong and coming away with a win. Mike, I don't think there's really much else to say here other than just absolutely incredible victory here tonight for yourself and
Thank
for
you very
team.
much.
Absolutely. It was incredible to watch yourself dominate the field here and really put on a clinic for not only the field but for Wojciech, who really put on a great race, the first race that we had here at Long Beach. But Micah, with that being said, with tonight finally being over and a well-deserved, a cold one, I know sitting in your fridge right now, calling your name, anyone you want to give a shout-out to or thank before you head out tonight?
Shout out to my friend Matt for letting me borrow his rig. So that was pretty cool. Shout out to my wife. I don't know if she's still watching, but for letting me go on a little vacation for 4th of July weekend. So shout out to them, and just family and everybody for watching back home, and you for great broadcast again. Really excited to look back at this one, and then for Woj for a good clean battle the last lap. He definitely had the pace on me, and there's some moments where he could have stuck a nose, and we both finished the race. So just really good, very fun race.
Absolutely. Well, Micah, it was a pleasure to get to talk to you up here in the booth again after a very dominating race last week. Second place finish at Watkins Glen, a first place finish here tonight at Charlotte, and hopefully get to see another dominating performance from you next week at in Canada as we head to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. But Micah, yet again, thank you for joining me up here in the booth. Congratulations on your win, and I will look forward to seeing you next week.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
You as well. Thank you much. Alrighty, folks. Micah Hendricks out of the booth here tonight, and I believe we've got one more person up here in the booth, in the waiting room for us, Mr. Dan McFarlane. Coming away in 4th place tonight, but Dan's waiting in the waiting room patiently, so we're going to go ahead and have a little quick word here with Mr. Dan. Dan, welcome to the booth. Congratulations on a top 5 finish here tonight, coming away in 4th place. Dan, I mean, it was a fantastic night of racing for a lot of drivers involved here, particularly for yourself here as well with Logan McKenzie. You both had some great battles here going into the final few minutes of the race here. Dan, kind of walk me through your race here tonight, and what kind of expectations did you have coming into Charlotte tonight?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. It was, this is not a track that I have raced in a long time. So coming into ATC, I mean, the guys in this league are top notch, and obviously Logan is no exception at all. So we had a terrific battle all race long. I decided to pit early during the middle of the race just to see if I could get around some lap traffic. Didn't really play off. The guys behind had done a little bit better fuel saving than I did, but ultimately, it shaped up for Logan and I to have a fantastic battle for the final podium position. It's a shame, I kind of felt like I had pushed him off in that last chicane there, so I figured, I'd kind of a gentlemanly rule. I shouldn't push somebody off and get the podium that way. But yeah, we had awesome racing. I mean, shout out to Logan for his pinpoint precision while I sent it on him multiple times.
Well, Dan, it was great to watch the sportsmanship kind of take place there on the final lap. It was unexpected for me up here in the booth. I did not expect both of you guys to kind of stop and be like, "Wait, are you gonna go or am I going? What's going on here?" It was definitely kind of a refreshing thing to witness, because I've seen it far too many times where drivers will just gladly take that position. But both yourself and Logan McKenzie and the entirety of the field here at ATC do a phenomenal job with being sportsmen to one another and not trying to step on each other's toes, and overall just trying to have a good racing experience. But Dan, before you head out tonight and before you celebrate with your fellow teammates, fellow drivers, anyone you want to shout out and think before you go tonight?
Yeah, shout out to my team, Sim Racing Grid. Shout out to Hard Tuned and Fandotech and all the little sponsors that kind of put their name on the car. Shout out to my one of my racing partners, David Johansson, who does all our liveries. Yeah.
Well, Dan, it was a pleasure to get to chat with you up here in the booth. I look forward to talking to you hopefully again next week as we head to Canada, to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. But until then, good luck to you next week, and hopefully get to talk to you more again as the season goes on.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a good one. Alrighty, folks. So that was Dan McFarlane coming out of the booth with a 4th place finish here tonight, just to round out our interviews here tonight. But that is going to conclude our coverage of round number 3 of the Alpha Touring Challenge, season number 8 here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Folks, I want to thank you all for tuning into the action here tonight. If you enjoyed what you saw, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Catch all the action that we have here on Team Goon Squad almost 7 nights a week. And if you want to catch more of the action, well, I've already said it, but hit that subscribe button and you won't want to miss anything that we have here. As the racing season is in full swing and there is plenty to be seen. Anyhow, folks, I look forward to seeing you all same time, same place next week as we head to Canada in the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park for round number 4. My name is Mason Heimbaugh with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action tonight. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you all next time.
Oh, Pearson gets into the 95 of Folks. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona, and away we go for the first time. Nicholas Morcell, Sean.
Looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Up now as we've got 3 wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let it go very far.
Nice to go out here for circuit disqualification. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
See just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
Smooth stuff. Cody Graham's the 1-on-1 up into 2nd place. Alex Johnson 6/10 lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, Justin Sang.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at Okayama International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons